As we're recording today, it is July 17th of 2020, which gives us less than a week for opening day of baseball, which has been the longest off season in baseball history, which is crazy. I mean, which 2020, everything's been going crazy, so I guess it shouldn't be super surprising, but it's just what's happened for 2020. So we finally get some baseball. And so with that, we, of course, have some power rankings that they do throughout the year, preseason, and then throughout the year, like I said. And then with the today, there was an article released about they put the teams into 7 tiers. Kind of, and we'll get to kind of how it is, and if I, my opinion on it, because I like this more than I like the power rankings. I don't think the power rankings really give you of course, I'm right, we're all biased because we have our favorite teams and whatever, but I don't entirely agree with how they set it up. So, and that's going to happen because it's my opinion. I'm not going to say that they're right or wrong. I just don't agree with everything. So, so with this tier that they set up, I thought this was way more interesting. So we're going to be discussing that today. So, as you guys may know, baseball was supposed to start in March, and we haven't had it. So we have our shortened 60-game season, which is, looking right, because if you guys don't know, baseball is typically 162 games. And so with only 60 games, it's like barely a chunk. It's pretty much like, after the All-Star break, you have your final stretch to figure out if you're going to win a division or however it is. And so it's I think the whole dynamic this year is going to be being, besides the rule changes of having universal DH and other stuff, it's a huge difference. And so I think with that, a lot of times, sometimes you see like the worst teams have like just this crazy run for a little while, and so like, are we going to see that? We're not going to see that. It's going to be hard to tell. It's going to be interesting. So, so on this article, they came up, like I said, with 7 tiers. So we're going to go through them. So the first one's called Title or Bust. The first tier has 3 teams. It has the Dodgers, the Twins, and the Yankees. It, of course, like with baseball, you never know who, like, you can assume this person's going to win, that person's going to win, but I feel like, it's just so difficult to find a real winner, because like I don't think anybody picked last year for the Nationals to win, and they did. So but the main reason why they picked those 3 teams to be in Tier 1 is because, there are 3 out of the 4 teams that won 100 games, and they have also done a lot for their roster in the offseason. Of course, the big one with the Yankees signing Garrett Cole. I mean, the Twins and Dodgers did some trades. I guess the big trade for the Dodgers and Twins was the Dodgers sent, who'd they send? They sent a pitcher, didn't they? Right? Kenta Maeda, right? They sent him to Minnesota and picked up some, prospects and stuff. The Dodgers also traded for Boston to get Mookie Betts, which I don't understand why Boston did that. I really don't. And I'm not saying I'm a Boston fan. I just, Mookie Betts was your best player, and you just send him off. So it's just weird. And the Twins approved. They signed Josh Donaldson with their other trades, and they've improved. Donaldson is a better defensive player than, I guess, what Minnesota had, and so you hopefully that hot corner is an improvement. With the Dodgers, if we start, it was full season, regular season, I would agree with saying that they're going to be a tough team to beat. But with as it is, you don't have David Price. The David Price, I forgot, was part of that trade from Boston. He chose not to participate for 2020. You also have three players who you just don't know about them. With was it Kenley Jansen, who I believe's their closer, Gavin Lux or Lux. I think he's an infielder. I'm not sure. I gotta double check. And AJ Pollock, who he's I think a first baseman, isn't he? I'm if I get these wrong, I'm sorry. I know some of the players, but not all of them. So, um, we'll see how it is. I think, I think they're going to win their division. I think for sure, like the NL West, I think the Dodgers are the best team, and so I think that they will get the win and definitely go to the playoffs. Because if you guys don't know this, the season's shorter, but playoffs, everything's still the same. So you have your 5 teams. Okay. Some technical difficulties. Okay. Now we're back. As I was saying, as the microphone decided to fall. So for the playoff rules, so you still have the same rules. So you have your 5 teams. You have your 3 division winners and the 2 wild cards. So they have that 1 wild card game, and then you have 1 and 4 play and 2 and 3 play. So I think the Dodgers are going to win their division again. Will they get past that? I don't know. Without David Price, the rotation I think's okay. Kershaw is not the pitcher he used to be. He gets hurt. He's been injured quite a lot, and he just doesn't. I think I'm not saying he's a bad pitcher. He just isn't the pitcher he was, and so it's going to be interesting to say the least. So for the Twins, I kind of talked about them a little bit, but I think they're going to be kind of like the underdogs for their division, realistically, for the AL Central. It's a good team. I think it's an underdog type team because there's a whole lot of players you don't know about. Their rotation still. The big one that you're gonna recognize that's been in Minnesota is Jake Odorizzi, and then you get Kenta Maeda from the Dodgers. And then I think Rich Hill, who signed to Minnesota he was a free agent. I think he's a starter. And their bullpen, should be pretty decent. So, like I said, it's going to be kind of interesting to see. For the last team in that tier, the Yankees, my team right there, clearly. I think with this delayed start, you have a huge benefit to starting late because you have all these star players that you weren't going to have at the beginning of the year that you have for the year. For the injured players, you're not going to have Luis Severino because he had Tommy John surgery. We're aware of that. But we only had him for 4 or 5 starts at the end of the year. So, the rotation did really good last year for who you had. So no Severino, but you have, Aaron Hicks is coming back from Tommy John as well. So your outfield is going to be stronger. Aaron Judge, I think he had fractured ribs that have healed, and so he'll be in the lineup. Giancarlo Stanton had a calf injury again, and so he's going to be, I think 100% for that. James Paxton, who had that cyst surgery to remove that cyst on his back. He was in the inter squad game earlier this week. Gary Sanchez had a sore back, so he was scratched for a bunch of spring training games. Who else? Miguel Andujar is kind of becoming a utility man, I feel like, because he's getting some reps in at left field and first base, I believe, and so he was gone for, I think he played 8 games last year. Now he didn't play more than, I don't remember the amount he played, but it wasn't a whole lot because of his shoulder injury. So Tanaka should be. Tanaka had that concussion concern. After that ball came back from Stanton, Stanton hit, and that was a crazy. It happens, but it's just you're scared to see that. So Tanaka should be back. I think the big concerns you have is you don't have, going into the year, you don't have Chapman, DJ LeMahieu, and Luis Sessa because of testing positive for COVID. But, once they're healthy, I think you get them. And I think it was announced yesterday that LeMahieu should be ready to go. If not opening day, that first week, as long as he gets cleared. I think Chapman is a little further out, but I think with your bullpen, I think you have, you still have a strong bullpen, because you still have, I know what they said they're going to do is they're just going to move Zach Britt into that closer role, which he closed for Baltimore, so. He can do that. And you have Ottavino, can be the setup man in the eighth. And, you still have Chad Green, Tommy Kahnle. And I think Holder's coming back, too. I know Holder had some elbow issues, but I think he should be healthy. And then you got some other, long relievers like, who is it, Loizica or Louis Seager? I can't remember pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Who else is there? Last year you saw all those minor leaguers come up and handle the bullpen well. So, we forgot to mention, you have a healthy Luke Voigt. You have Glaber playing his natural position at shortstop. Luke Voigt, right? Luke Voigt's healthy. Glaber Torres is playing natural position. So, it's hard to not root for the Yankees because I think they have a really good chance. I think they're going to definitely win the division, but we'll kind of see how it goes. So like they said, that's which also two for their power rankings. The Dodgers were first, their power ranking. Yankees were second. I think the Twins were fourth or fifth. I know Houston was third. So. You're in the top tier, but you still have, it's not like it's super random to be in there. So, the second tier, they're calling the Astro Zone because of just all the crazy things that transpired with Houston and the sign stealing scandal and just everything that transpired with that. So, they put them in this second tier. Besides that sign stealing thing, because it's like, are these players? I think some of the players are still going to be good. I think George Springer, Bregman are going to be, Correa are going to be good. Because I think they're just that, they're just that good. The players are just that good. But for other people, I just, you just don't know. It's going to be interesting. So, another reason why they said that they put him in here is because of their pitching depth, right? So the rotation was already kind of weak at the end of the year, before they lost Garrett Cole. So you have your 1 and 2 starter, your 1 and 2 starters, I should say, being Justin Verlander and Zach Greinke are both in their late 30s. They'll be 37 at the end of the year. Right, because Verlander turns 37 in February, Greinke turns 37 in October. So you get them extra rest, so that's helpful. But your other starters are kind of, like Lance McCullers Jr. Some others are going to be just, I think they're kind of untested, I think, somewhat. So yeah. We'll see. I think they're still going to be difficult to beat. I still think, because they're a good team, but how good are they really? That's the real question I think you have to ask. And so I still think that they're going to win the NL West. Not the NL, the AL West. I think they're going to be the AL West winners. Just because I just don't think the other teams are there yet to beat them. So, the third tier they call strong contenders, which includes the A's, the Braves, the Mets, the Nationals, and the Rays. These are the good teams. These are, besides the Mets, they were all in the playoffs last year in one way or another. The A's and Rays were the wild card teams. The Braves were the East. They were the East Division winners. Nationals were a wild card team. Of course, the Nationals won the World Series. The Mets haven't been to the playoffs, I think, until like 2015, 2016. So it's been a little while for the Mets. But they did, well, I guess we'll get to them. So, with the A's, I think, they're a good team. I think they're kind of untested a little bit. I think they're unknown because they're in Oakland. Also too, you're also in the, I think the Houston kind of overshadows all the other teams in that division. But I think the A's, they're good. They're a hard team to beat, because I know last 2 years, the Yankees have had, their problems beating them in the regular season. So, let's see what else. The Braves, the Braves have kind of, last year you thought they were going to be pretty good in the division, and they ended up losing they ended up losing in the division round series. But they had some nice additions, but you don't for the 2020 season, you won't have Nick Markakis, which you have covered by Yasiel Puig. I don't know the full details, but they had announced that he was signing with the Braves. And you don't have Felix Hernandez, which I think they were setting him up to be like the fifth starter for the Braves. So, your outfield, I think your outfield is going to improve a little bit. At least for offense, having Puig in there. They did sign some other people. I think they signed Cole Hamels to a 1-year deal, and Ozuna from St. Louis, I think he was a free agent, and they signed him. So I think your offense is somewhat better than it's been the last couple of years, but you kind of see how it goes. So we'll get there. I don't know if they're going to be division winners with the Nationals or even the Mets, because that's the next team we're talking about. I know the Mets, you don't have Noah Syndergaard because he's having Tommy John surgery, but you do have, of course, your right. Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom has won 2 years in a row. The NL Cy Young. So you have your number one right there. You also have, hopefully, a good Rick Porcello. Like 2018 Porcello, 2019 was not a very good Rick Porcello for Boston. So 2018, I know he did pretty good. At least I believe so. I could be wrong. I got to double check my facts. I'm just kind of winging it here. But they do have some improved bullpen and their rotation a little bit. I think did they sign any position players? I'm not really sure. But I think that you could have some. You could have some. Definitely better than last year. I think if they're not fighting for number one, I think they're a wild card contender more than likely in the second spot for that division, depending on how well the Nationals do as well, because that's the next team we're talking about. So, it's funny on this article. It starts off, the last 2 decades. It's been 2 decades since you have the last repeat champions, which have been the Yankees from the three-peat teams from 98 to 2000. Right, that's the last time you've had the team, a team that won the World Series in a row. If it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, it doesn't matter. It's been that long. So, the Nationals were able to re-sign, I believe, a large amount of their free agents last year. I know they lost Anthony Rendon to the Angels, and maybe a couple others. I'm not 100% sure. But you don't have Ryan Zimmerman playing. He decided to opt out. So, I think they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think that they, um, wild card contenders again. Maybe we'll see. Maybe the division winners. That one's it's a hard one for that one. The next team we talk about. Let me tell. Like I get some water. I'm just rambling. Next team we are going to discuss will be the Tampa Bay Rays, which, they're a good team. They don't get a lot of, I think that's the thing about the AL East is, the AL East has always been a hard division to play against, whatever. Because you have the Yankees and the Red Sox. Those two teams take a lot of the, spotlight from the division onto them, and so the Rays are a good team. I think they have one of the better, one of the better rotations. And they also even started. That's one thing that I think is crazy. And if you go and look at the projected rotations that teams have this year in comparison to years in the past, like the Rays started doing the whole opener thing where you have one of your relievers pitch 1-2 innings, and then you have a long reliever and that stuff, and it worked, right? And then now you have the opposite. You're literally having people you have like a 6-man rotation, which is it's not very common. It's crazy. I just thought it was super interesting to see that for this year and how it's turned around, just on how crazy it is. I think when we get to regular baseball, like 162, I think you only see a handful of teams do the 6-man rotation. I think the Angels are still going to continue to do that with Ohtani, because I think they're right. They have him pitching a game, day off. I think bat 4, so then you kind of just have extra days off, whatever. I could be wrong, but I kind of still think you have teams that are going to do the opener thing because it worked, right? So your rotation is really, really good, let's see who else. They traded some people away, but I think that they were able to get better with the trades. So they, I think they're going to be second in the division, if not, get really close to being division leaders. Kind of see how it goes. For the Tier 4, I guess not really with Tier 4, there we go, we have the borderline contenders, which are going to include the Angels, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the D-backs, the Phillies, and the Reds. I think this is kind of where you get in the middle of the road, where, some of these teams made huge deals in the offseason, to where, teams that were, last in divisions, under 500, like way under 500, but last in divisions, worst records in baseball. They have the potential to be better, but how are they going to utilize this talent that they picked up, right? The better examples I think are lower on that list, but starting with the Angels, I know you signed Anthony Rendon. I can't talk today. You have Mike Trout, you have Ohtani, you have all these players. I just don't know. Maybe Joe Madden, he can get them to be better. Maybe he can. I just don't see it. I just don't see the Angels. I just don't see them as a huge threat right now. I know you have, I know Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, but I just when you play for a bad team, I just don't see how. And I'm not saying like he needs to leave or whatever, but you have to be able to just be a good team, and I don't think they're there. So, I don't think they're going to be any division contenders against the A's and the Astros. I could be wrong, but I find it hard to do. So, the next team are the Brewers. for the Brewers, you did lose some talent, but you were able to not re-sign, but you were able to sign a pretty good chunk of people. Hopefully you have a healthy Kristen Yelich, and some. I think their bullpen was pretty beat up last year, so hopefully you have a healthy bullpen. I think you might have, a chance of being, of being, you know, I. So they're the NL Central. I think the NL Central is going to be a close one. I think the NL Central is typically closer than the other divisions, and so I think you're going to have that as well. Because who won the NL Central? The Cardinals, and so do I think they're better than the Cardinals? I think this year they are, and so maybe they are able to capitalize with what they got. So it's going to be interesting to see. So what's the next team? The Cardinals. They signed a Korean pitcher, and I think that was really it. So, and I think you lost some free agents from St. Louis, and so, I think they're going to be okay. I don't know if they're going to pick up the division. I think it might be. I don't know. We'll see. But the Cardinals are. I think they were kind of they were the surprise. Not saying they were the surprise in the playoffs last year, but I totally wasn't going to expect them to beat the Braves, and they did. And so, the rotation's good. Their offense could be better. So, we'll kind of see what happens. So, next team, the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks did improve this year a lot. They signed, I think their big signing, was Madison Bumgarner. I think he's their number one starter now, which is crazy. And you signed some better offensive, just better position players. And so, and I believe they got a bunch of prospects from the Astros last year with the Zach Greinke trade. So, I don't think they're 100% there yet to be contenders, but next year after, for sure. So, yeah. Alrighty, so the Phillies. I think with the Philly, you got some really good players last year. Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, McCutchen. You signed Didi Gregorius. You signed Zach Wheeler. You have a new manager. I think the Phillies are going to be a tough team to beat. I think it's going to be, I think the NL East is going to be closer than it's been in a while. So I think, I don't think Miami's going to be contenders, which we'll get later when we get to that part of the tier. But Philadelphia, I think they finished right at 500 last year. And so, you think that they have a chance. I think, they have a good team. So I think you just, maybe, with having Joe Girardi being the new manager, you have him capable of, using that talent better. So, let's see. Next team, the Reds. The Reds made a splash last year with, who they signed and who they traded for and stuff. And they did some more stuff this year. I think with the Reds, I don't think they're going to be true contenders this year. I think next year they'll be more likely to. And so, I don't think they're going to be last place. I think, well, it was either them or Phil and Pittsburgh that were last place. I will say they'll finish like middle of the division, maybe. We'll see. So, is that the last? Okay. So, Tier 5 is what's called the star-laden team seeking direction. And there's only 4 teams on this tier. I thought this one was super interesting. So the teams on this one are the Cubs, the Indians. As of right now, the Indians. We'll see if they change the name. The Red Sox and the Rockies. So all these teams still have stars, star players. They're decent teams, but I think you just have bad management for a handful of them, and just bad. I'm not saying like the field manager. I'm saying like, just people getting rid of players and stuff, and this and that. The Cubs. They have a new manager. I don't. And you have a lot. Like I said, you have a lot of good talent in Chicago. I just don't think they're gonna. They're going to be able to perform as well as the others. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. The Indians, they traded away, I think, some players. They traded away Corey Kluber and stuff, and so. I don't know. I just, we'll see. And with, I feel like they're getting, the ownership's getting close to just unloading and restarting, doing the whole rebuild. I think that's where they're at almost. Well, we'll see kind of what happens. But for the Red Sox, I think the Red Sox are there now already, where they're going to start tanking, start unloading. Start loading more players, more salaries and stuff. They did that with David Price, Mookie Betts to Los Angeles. I still find that crazy that, you get rid of, your number, like, Mookie Betts, I think, was their best player for Boston. And so, also too, you don't have your number one starter, Chris Sale, Tommy John surgery. And so, I don't think your rotation's going to... And you also lost Rick Porcello to the Mets. So, I feel like you're going to have just a weak rotation, just a weak team. So, I don't think they're going to finish last in the AL East, but definitely, maybe fourth. So, and the last team, the Rockies. The Rockies are pretty much... I think they're at a... to start tanking. I think they're going to get rid of Nolan Arenado very soon, because it says that in the article as well. But what does it say? It says they didn't sign a single major league free agent, and they have the 4th worst rotation projection in the NL. So the Rockies are stinking it up again. So, because last year they lost a lot of players. You lost, DJ LeMahieu, you lost Adam Ottavino, you lost some other players, but yeah, the Rockies are not going to be very good. So, all right, Tier 6 is it's called the competitive up-and-comers, which there's another 4 teams on here. So you have the Blue Jays, the Padres, the Rangers, and the White Sox. I agree with that, because I feel like they made some pretty good signings this offseason, or trades or whatever. The Blue Jays, I think next year they're going to be the team, like they're going to be a tough team to beat next year, especially in the AL East, because you have all that young talent that's just ready to go, with some, you kind of sign some veteran players to help, teach these guys. And so I think it's going to be interesting though. It's going to be fun to watch Toronto, and I think they're going to be, good contenders. So let's see who else is there. For the Padres, they made some trades and got some younger talent. And so they're going to be, hopefully, I don't think they're going to be contenders this year, but I think you're going to have glimpses of that. And definitely next year, I think you're going to have, them potentially going for the Dodgers division division spot, which that sounds weird. Let me reword that. The Padres, that record, I think the Dodgers have won like 7 or 8 divisions, NL West divisions in a row. And so I think the Padres are going to get close to beating that. So we'll kind of see what happens. Who else is on there? The Rangers, they made some trades. And so I think you have, a better, you're going to have glimpses again, but I don't think you're going to be competitive this year. And then for the White Sox, they made a bunch of just a bunch of players they signed, and so I think this year they're gonna try to figure out how they're gonna have everything. So next year they're gonna be a tough team to beat next year. I think, of course it's the AL Central, and so I think right now the best team's still Minnesota, and so I don't think the White Sox are going to be quite there yet, but we'll kind of see how it goes. I don't think they're going to get fourth place. I think they'll break even third place in the division. So, and then the last tier is literally called everyone else, and it's the Giants, the Mariners, the Marlins, the Orioles, the Pirates, the the Giants, the Mariners, the Marlins, the Orioles, the Pirates, the Royals, and the Tigers, which on the power rankings, I think they're like 30 to 30 to I think whatever. They're like pretty much all these teams are like last ranked in the rankings because they suck. Let's kind of, going down the list. The Giants lost. They lost Bumgarner, so I think that's a huge blow right there. So I just, I don't think they're going to be super competitive the next year. So Mariners, I don't think they really lost anybody this year. I think they're in process of rebuilding. I don't know. The Marlins are, I think we're almost there in terms of how they want the team to be, in terms of just the rotation and players and everything. So I think you're almost there for Miami. The Orioles are, I think you're still a few years away of having some good teams. I don't think you're there yet in terms of just having your teams be ready to go. For the Pirates, I don't think the Pirates are anywhere close to having the rebuild ready. I think that this is like year one for that. So I think you're going to see them tanking on purpose to be able to get some better talent. The Royals, you have a new manager, and so I think you're going to be somewhat tank mode, somewhat rebuild. I mean, you're in rebuild mode already, but I think you're somewhat tanking as well. Tigers, I don't. Let me double check, make sure. Yeah, the Tigers. I think they're gonna start the rebuild. I mean, they kind of started rebuilding this year. I think you're gonna see more of that later. So, I don't think they're going to be very good this year. So there's that. So, like I said, I like this tier way better than the power rankings. And I'm not saying that because the Dodgers are number one, the Yankees are number two. I just thought it was more interesting to kind of see it set up like this, to see, this. You look at just how the rosters are shaping up for this year and everything, and just kind of, as this year has been shortened, you have to kind of change how you're doing everything, and to kind of see how these other teams are kind of not reacting, I guess reacting to, but just kind of how they're setting up everything. So to recap the tiers, so tier 1, which they're calling the title or bust, you have the Dodgers, the Twins, and the Yankees. Tier 2, it's just called the Astro Zone. Tier 3 are the strong contenders, which are... Hold on, give me a second. Tier 3 are the A's, the Braves, the Mets, the Nationals, and the Rays. Tier 4 are the borderline contenders, which you have the Angels, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the D-backs, the Phillies, and the Reds. Tier 5, which are, what's it called? The star-laden team seeking direction. You have the Cubs, the Indians, the Red Sox, and the Rockies. Tier 6 are the Blue Jays. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Tier 6 is called the competitive up-and-comers, which you have the Blue Jays, the Padres, the Rangers, and the White Sox. Tier 7 is everyone else, which includes the Giants, the Mariners, the Marlins, the Orioles, the Pirates, the Royals, and the Tigers. So there's that. I do like it because I think it just gives you a better opportunity to kind of look at the teams and stuff, because I don't think the power rankings really give you, I'm not saying they don't give you an honest answer. I just, I think they look at certain things more than others or whatever. So I think with this tier setup, which I don't know if they're going to continue this, it'd be cool if they do. Like 30 games in, hey, we're halfway there. Let's, sorry, I lost my train of thought because I wanted it to. So I said we're halfway there. I wanted to be like, oh, we're living on a prayer. Bon Jovi. Sorry, having a moment. It'd be kind of nice to see, when they get midway through the season, that we see another tier system, and then I like the end and the playoffs and everything. But, looking at it again right now, I don't think you really see a huge change of your top teams. Your top 10 teams are still relatively the same, except for your top three tiers. You have all but one team that was in the playoffs last year, and your last team is in tier 4. So, these teams are just set up better right now, and so we'll just kind of see how the season turns out. So there's that. So I think I'm gonna wrap up there today. So if you stayed through the end, I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm still figuring out the best schedule for the podcast and how many episodes I want to do a week, or if I want to do this and that. I'm still working on all the kinks. A little quick thought on the other CD2 Entertainment sites or other CD2 Entertainment stuff. I'm working on some new videos and stuff. I expect to see a lot of stuff come out in August. I'm working on some stuff to get ready for August. So, like I said, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. You want to follow me on social media, those links are in the description on YouTube and wherever on my podcast stuff. I am working on actually setting up a website as well, which hopefully soon will be ready to go, so you guys can click it and see all the other stuff on the website. But in the meantime, stay safe, be smart, and we'll catch you guys next time. All right, thanks.